Margaret dreamed of dazzling colors and heavenly music, and woke again to splendors that diminished promptly when she had willed them to. The rioting colors faded and stabilized, the eldritch harmonies muted, and again she closed her eyes and stretched luxuriously. She had apparently overslept. She had that rested, muddled, and slightly guilty feeling that always came from sleeping longer than her usual 7 hours. A delicious feeling, actually, though disorienting. She tried to remember her dreams, but could put not form to them. They seemed odd, though, as though she had not been alone in them. Her throat ached slightly, and her scalp had a warm, tingly feeling. Yet even as she noticed these, they all diminished, and she had the feeling again that someone had just apologized to her, though there had been no words. All these things registered vaguely, sleepily, and then she remembered and came awake instantly. All the meaningless, frightening, wondrous, and unique experiences of yesterday came flooding back, and her eyes opened wide. She lay staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Yes, it was real. It had happened, whatever it was. Almost afraid to breathe, she wondered whether it was gone. Was it still with her? That expanding of the senses? That feeling of being visited by something other than herself? Did she want to find out? She let the question hang before her, puzzling at it as her eyes puzzled at the patterns of the colors on her ceiling. A funny, not quite symmetrical checkerboard pattern of dim pastels, large rectangles of deep lavender bordered by wide lines of violet. She traced the patterns with her eyes and felt a creeping dread. Her ceiling had no such colors. There was only plain white latex paint. She sat up and looked around. Her eyes widened even more. The wall across from her bed was the same color as the ceiling, except that the pattern was vertical stripes. Below it, the fascia panel glowed a rich vermilion, with dark shadows in it suggesting a continuation of the violet stripes above. The worn old barrow was various shades of mauve, purple, and blue. The mirror was deep blue, darkly reflecting the wall above and behind her. The picture by the lamp was a blank canvas of deep purple within a shimmering violet frame. My God, the words echoed in the stunned silence of her mind. My God. The bed where she lay was shades of deep purple, except where she was. Around her, outlining her, was an aura of rose tint increasing to bright magenta. She threw back the covers abruptly. Her legs glowed warmly, even though the fabric of her nightshirt. In panic, she rolled from the bed and stood, then caught her breath when she saw herself in the mirror. She glowed, brighter by far than the other light in the room. She seemed to light up the surface around her with bright magenta highlights. She was a light. She shone with an unearthly pink radiance, a neon person standing in a purple pastel room. This time she screamed a little loud. Oh, my God! She whirled to the window, aware of sounds elsewhere in the house. Keenly aware of sounds outside, aware of something, some surprise tasting, something inside herself, seemingly trying to calm and soothe her. It was the same outside, blue trees and deep blue lawns, houses glowing dimly in various shades of lavender and lilac, a pink bird flittering in a sky of midnight blue. The Fletcher's dog at its purple gate across the street, looking toward her window and shining with a magenta glow. She heard and sensed her father hurrying across the hall, heard her door open and turned and saw him shining there, another neon person. Squinting into the room and reaching for her light switch, it clicked. Abruptly the room and everything in it returned to normal, or nearly so. Still, there were the strange colors and the sense of glowing, but now they were just faint highlights adding luster to plain white walls. Henry, blinking away sleep from concerned eyes, stared at her. His sleepy, questioning presence was an aura that she could taste. "Meg? What's the matter, honey? What happened?" She sensed her mother in the hall behind him, hurrying. Across the street, the Fletcher's dog began to bark, and she felt that she could almost understand what it was saying. I don't know," she said softly. "It was like... Hazel was there then, at Henry's shoulder. "Meg, what's the matter? You screamed." "It's all right," something inside assured. "Forgive me, but there is nothing wrong." "It's all right," Meg mumbled, dazed. "I don't know what it was. Something Are you ill, dear?" Hazel's concern, like Henry's, had a sharp taste. They came to her as when she was a child, she realized suddenly, wondering and reassuring, a whirl of parental response. She hadn't noticed the reaction in years, but it was there. "Did you have a bad dream, honey?" Henry asked. Hazel's hand touched her forehead, then withdrew abruptly, as though she had felt a shock. Her eyes widened, and Meg felt her fright like a blow. Behind her forehead was a familiar tingling. "I'll bet you had a nightmare," Henry reassured her, glancing at the bedside clock. Meg looked too, and was surprised to see that it was just past 2 in the morning. Hazel was staring at her, rubbing her hand where it had touched her. Again she reached, and Meg clamped down tight on the sensations within her. Deep down, something agreed and responded, and the lusters dimmed. Hazel's hand on her forehead was warm, and even though the tight restraints Meg felt or tasted somehow, strangeness in her concern, a puzzlement. "I guess that's what it was," she told them. "I had a bad dream." "Yeah, I thought maybe you did," Henry agreed, but there was a sudden, quick curiosity in his eyes, and his presence tasted of abrupt intuition. Do you want to talk about it?" he asked. "The dream, I mean. Or anything?" Something in her wanted to respond to his intuition, but there were no words. "I thought it was morning," she said lamely. That faint tingling then seeping through, and Hazel's concerned hand withdrew from her forehead again, as though shocked. "Henry," she said, wide-eyed. "Feel her head. Do you have a fever, honey?" He raised his hand and touched her, jerked away, then slowly touched her again. His eyes narrowed, studying her. His lips pursed in thought. But to Hazel he said only, "Static electricity, hun. It's been dry, but she doesn't have a temperature." "I'm fine," Meg assured them. "I simply had a bad dream. Everything's fine. Honest." She felt a fullness in her throat and sensed something, adding overtones of reassurance to her voice. Her parents' love was a tangible aura touching her, and hers for them was a wash of calming reassurance that somehow went out to them. She was aware of calming them, Inside, something reacted with tiny elation. "Well done," a voice seemed to say. "You learn quickly." "Go back to bed," she told them. "For heaven's sake, it's 2 in the morning." Even after they had returned to their room, she could hear the murmur of their voices. Odd, she thought, how acute her senses had become. She had never heard so well before. Thoughts flowed in her mind, random segments that had no words, only snatches of meaning, sensory limitations, some extendable, something latent, it just something else, harmonics, wider spectra. The words were her own, but they fit the thoughts somehow. What is happening to me? On impulse, she crossed the switch and turned off the room light. Instantly, the eerie colors returned. She glowed in the dark, bright shades of pink. Everything glowed. She went to the window and looked out. Despite the fear that shrouded her, fear of an unknown so bizarre that there was no explanations. Despite all that, she was enthralled at the beauty of it. A glowing, iridescent pastel world of blues and purples and hot pinks. Nightshades such as had never been seen. No, she, or something, corrected herself. Such as I have not seen. Below on the lawn, movement caught her eye. Confused and fascinated, she watched a pair of neon bright cats night stalking beneath the dark purple foliage of a lilac hedge. Their footprints, tiny trails of violet that faded behind them on deep blue grass. Her eyes began to ache, and she thought oddly, "Please, not so fast. I'm only human." Why did I think that? She caught herself. What a strange idea. A wisp of memory tugged at her, and she groped for it and found it. Pictures in a magazine, an article on home insulation, infrared pictures of heat escape. She looked at her walls and ceiling. The stripes might be studs behind sheetrock, and the ceiling patterns those of beams and joists. I'm seeing in the infrared, she told herself, or else I'm imagining that I am. In the bathroom, she turned the hot tap. Purple water spun in an indigo basin, and she washed it again, noting the lyric bell tones of its music as it flowed. Moments passed, and the color of the water began to change. Blue-violet to dark lavender, to violet to magenta, brightening and glowing. The indigo basin also began to change, purple radiance creeping up its sides. When the water was crimson bright and she felt the heat of its radiating, she turned off the tap. That's exactly what I'm doing, she explained to herself, slowly, trying to make sense of it. I'm seeing colors in the infrared spectrum. People can't see infrared, but that is what I'm doing. Her eyes ached again, and the vagrant thought, don't push me too far, I'm only human. A command as though to someone else. Obediently, the brightness is dimmed, but still she could see them. In a dark room, in the dark of night, she could see. Within her was a sense of something, wishing her well and laboring to give her a precious gift. 4 hours of sleep had left her fully rested, alerted, and wide awake. She put on her robe and went downstairs, avoiding the squeaking third tread, aware of the sleep to which her parents had returned. She went outside, In the night stillness was a song of perceived resonances, a concert of sounds, scents, and colors that bathed her in radiance. She sat on the front porch steps, deep in thought, trying to find a logical explanation for the events of the last day. One of the neon cats came shining from the dark lilac hedge, and on impulse she called to it, a strange, soft croning at the edge of hearing. The cat looked toward her, alert, then bounded across the glowing blue lawn to rub against her. She stroked it, enchanted by the unrestrained pleasure it emanated. The creature looked up at her, cat eyes wide, pupilled from dim light. She wondered what it saw with those lustrous eyes. Did it see what she was seeing now? The eyes were large, oval, subtly slanted. They reminded her of the dream face, and immediately his image came to mind, vital and clear-focused. Broad, rounded brows, slope of cheeks, upturned V-shaped mouth, and those almond gold eyes looking at her, seeing her, and knowing her with a gentle, certain knowledge that made her want to cry. It was more than just dream recall, that face. It was as though the image was presented to her, held there by someone else, and presented for her to see. For a moment she permitted the glories again, and revealed in the beauties of a world come brilliantly alive. But she felt she could drown in it. She had tightened the clamps again. Despite that, something in her, the otherness that seemed to be there, sharing her mind and body, seemed gratified that she had allowed a moment of it. What is happening to me? The question was a constant underlying thought. And was it a constant response? Nothing dreadful. Strange, yes, but not dreadful at all. And gratitude, a feeling of gratitude, as of someone else giving thanks to her, profoundly and sincerely. For hours she sat on the steps, deep in thought, aware of more than a human being could be aware of, frightened yet repeatedly soothed by those awarenesses that were part of her. She tried to understand, and the tiny otherness within her tried to help her understand, but there was neither words nor concepts for it. More and more she was certain that it was an otherness, almost like another person there, a part of her, but very different and separate. Thoughts came, and she followed them, trying to find slots for them in the world as she knew it. Few of these thoughts produced anything but confusion. She found a trick, though, that seemed to produce a sort of dialogue. She relaxed and let questions float in her mind. Simple questions, yes or no, agree or disagree, and the otherness responded, or she imagined that it did, with feelings of positive or negative. Are you something other than me? Positive. Are you a ghost? Puzzlement. No concept. Are you alive? Positive. Are you me? Uncertainty. But you are someone else? Positive. Am I going crazy? Negative. Am I imagining all this? Tentative negative. If so, I'm imagining this part too. Why are you with me? No clear response. Feeling of great sadness, of loss. Did you die? Positive. But you're still alive? Positive. Her thoughts went round and round. Are you changing me? Positive. Can I make you stop? Positive. Hint of pleading. Can I be rid of you? Hesitant, positive, bittersweet. Then a thought with words sudden, desperate, and pleading. Please let me stay. He needs me. They need me. And again, the vision of the face, that beautiful, exotic, almost unearthly face of her dream. Oh God, she moaned inwardly, exasperated. I think I'm going mad. I'm talking to myself in my mind, and I don't even understand my answers. What's happening to me? Wait, the tiny there-ness pleaded. Wait. We can be closer. You will know more. It is very hard. We are so different, yet alike. Please wait. Let me stay. As dawn tinted the sky, and the night colors receded before other hues that Margaret had never seen before, Henry O'Toole came out and sat beside his daughter. He gently touched a hand to her forehead, only for a moment, and then looked at her with eyes full of wonder. What is it, Meg? What is it? I don't know, she said. Something has happened. Can you tell me about it? She shook her head. I don't know what it is. As though to assist her, the otherness in her found a word and presented it. A word, it seemed, that had to do with how she and it were alike. Meg blinked, confused. You? She asked in her mind. Yes, partly, the thought said, and you, and him too. Him, my father? Yes. The word hung there, wanting her to consider it. The word was Pixie. Henry was looking at her concerned. Is it something you can handle, Meggie? People say I'm like Grandmother Maud, she said suddenly, slowly. Your great-grandmother? Yes, I suppose you are. You look like old pictures of her. Are you like her too? He shrugged. People always told me I was. I don't know. She liked music and the deep woods and laughter and birdsong and bright colors. She loved to dance and she loved her family. And she couldn't stand liars and cheats. I can think of worse people to be like. Meg sat in silence for a time, then turned to him. Dad, what does the word pixie mean to you? He paused and chuckled. I don't know, but it's probably a good description of your great-grandmother. And of you too, for that matter. Why? Does this have something to do with what's on your mind? I don't know, but it seems as though it might.